Appreciate your time coming out this morning. When we met back in April, we talked about a strategy to use our rates and our premium deltas to your advantage, tie it into HRAs and the healthcare security ordinance strategy. So this is finally the follow-up to that. My goal today is to give you something new to talk to prospects and clients about. I'm Kevin Rowland, I'm the sales manager. And I apologize if I've offended everybody so far today. I'm going to talk about, the original thing when we met back in April was talking about a strategy that would Chinese Community Health Plan might help facilitate here in the city, specifically for employers because they have to comply with the healthcare security ordinance. If you have not looked at our rates and compared them to our competitors, you'll find that our rates, individual, small group, large group, will beat anybody by 20 to 25 points, day in and day out. Now, sometimes when I say that to the brokerage community, they go, well, are you buying market share? Are you buying the business? Recently, you saw CCHP do this, and then a couple years into it, they were handing out 30 and 40% renewals. I see some smiles and heads nodding. CCHP's been doing this for 25 years. We're not trying to set ourselves in the market. We're not trying to get market share. The plan, as far as I've been able to ascertain talking to everybody in it, has never had a trend factor in the double digits. If you look at our rates compared to some of our large groups, where we're offered alongside Kaiser, we've had them for a while, our rates are literally half of Kaiser. That's our cost basis. This is not a grandiose palace we have here. We keep our overhead low. We don't take brokers on big trips. I wish we did because I get to go too. Recently I was playing golf with a head underwriter from Kaiser, and we were talking about the big broker event they had down in San Diego at the Grandale Resort. I went as a significant other. It was great. Top 100 resort in the world. He goes, why are we taking 200 people to the Grandale when we're trying to bend the trend? Great question. So, I'll get off my soapbox before I get too high on it. First, I have to do our commercial about Chinese Community Health Plan. We are truly an integrated system. We got the hospital, we have our IPA, and we have the health plan. We look more like Kaiser than any other health plan in the marketplace. We were conceived out of necessity. I'll talk about the history quickly. We share a common mission, which is to serve the community, to provide care. Originally that was specifically the Chinese community, but it's expanded. And it's really thinking about our middle market, our lower market populations is where our pointer is at. And I think if you look at what has happened with Covered California here in San Francisco, we are the #1 selected plan in San Francisco County by 7 points. We got 34% market share in San Francisco under Covered California. Next is Kaiser, and I think 27-point market share. Why is that? It's our price point. We've got quotes where we have some of the lowest rates in the nation. We want to be here a long time for the community. If you look at our history, 1899, the Chinese community could not get health care in San Francisco. There was a lot of social prejudice and even regulatory rules, laws that prohibited things. So they started a dispensary. 1923, community came together. If you were to look at this picture, originally the dispensary, there's some white guys in here who were supportive. 1923, the community started the Chinese Hospital Association. In 1925, the original hospital was opened. Eventually outgrew its capacity. In '79, they opened a new hospital right next door. 1982, the medical staff formed an IPA. Why? Because they could not get contracts with the big carriers. They couldn't get with the Blues, United, Aetna. By forming their own IPA, they had negotiating clout and they could get contracts. Stemming from that in '86, the creation of Chinese Community Health Plan. Most recently, a notable event was the opening of our East-West Clinic, which is an integrative health system clinic. When we speak of East-West integrated, we're talking acupuncture, herbal medicine tied into traditional. Very fast-growing segment of the market, not just for the Asian community, but for other segments. 2016, next door to our existing hospital, will be the new hospital, 54 beds, ICU beds, and skilled nursing beds, because there's a shortage of those in the community. I'll be done with this in a minute. One thing to keep in mind that our membership is open to all who live and or work in San Francisco. So you may have an employer that's located here, but an employee that's in Oakland or Marin. They can be a member here, even though that's out of our service area because of their work rule. Important to remember. Some people talk about quality. You know, they think of the Chinese hospital and all these pictures and bias. What's the quality of care like? We were the first plan to hit 4 stars with CMS a couple years ago. Today there are a number of others. The only 5-star plan is Kaiser. We also were good enough to get awarded the Covered California contract. One of the few small plans to get in there. And if you just haven't heard the word that over in Contra Costa County, that little health plan is not going to be offered in Covered California next year. They've withdrawn. We also have our NCQA accreditation. These are all points that set back. Anybody says, what about quality? Well, we've got outside verification that we can deliver quality. And again, we're the #1 selected plan. So, consumer-directed plans, CDHPs. They're proven strategies. You know, they reduce premium cost while reducing the impact of high deductibles, because that's what you really have to have is a higher deductible to save premium cost so the employer can fund these vehicles. They do change consumerism. They change behavior patterns. Tom referred to the Teamsters here up in Northern California. It's interesting. I serviced that account for a number of years. Their pharmacy cost for their HSA bargaining units was 15% of the pharmacy cost of the traditional plans. Why is that? People were invested in how much it cost. It wasn't just $10 anymore. Now, granted, some of these Teamsters up around Redding and Eureka didn't really use the money appropriately. I remember at one open enrollment meeting, one guy came up and says, I've saved enough, I'm getting a new quad. I'm going deer hunting. Well, he had to answer the IRS for an audit if it came to that. But they saved the money. Teamsters were actually able to retire early because they had accumulated enough money to pay their insurance costs till Social Security. They work. With an HRA, the employer retains control over some of that money in the plans. And again, HSA, HRA is really the vehicle. Healthcare security ordinance. Real difficult thing here in San Francisco. For for-profit businesses, if you have more than 20 employees, not-for-profit 50, it applies. Now, an interesting piece of trivia I've learned. You may be a non-San Francisco employer. You've got a delivery business based in Oakland. And your truck driver is passing through the city to go to San Mateo and has to stop and make a delivery. The time that driver is making a delivery in San Francisco because they stop, you should put money aside for the healthcare security ordinance. If they drive through and don't stop, then it's not an issue. These are some of the gotchas. Now, granted, the only enforcement of the HCSO really is when people file a complaint today. But there has been some major cost to employers who do not comply. Employees are covered if their minimum wage, worked at least 90 calendar days, and work at least 8 hours per week. And they don't cover managers, Medicare, and a few others. Here is the current rates for 2014. 2015 have not come out yet. But if you've got 100 plus employees in your, you've got to put $2.44 per hour aside. Less than that, 20 to 99, you're a for-profit, $1.63. 50 to 99 for not-for-profits, $1.63. lower your exempt. This turns into real money. You know, if we go to restaurants for a long time now, you look at the bottom of the menu, 3% surcharge. That was really to pay for the healthcare security ordinance, right? Well, up until recently, a lot of these employers would take that money, put it into an HRA, and not really want to tell their employees about it. It was a dirty little secret. You know, you got some money, but it's not really there. Because at the end of the year, they were clawing the money back. It was greatly underutilized as a business, a benefit. But how does an employer satisfy the requirement? They can pay premiums, they can contribute to an HSA or an HRA, or they can give the money to the city. It's called the city option. It goes into the city coffers. They have a medical reimbursement arrangement. It acts like an HRA. The thing about that is the employer relinquishes the cash to the city and it's forever gone. If I'm going too fast, it's because of the second Red Bull, and just raise your hand. Here's how, you know, the city task force looked at a sample of employers and how they're complying. A lot of them, because of the cost of the health insurance, are just putting it towards premium cost. Some may be buying high deductible plans and sending the residual amount to the city option. A good portion are doing HRAs, but not a huge. Some people just send the money to the city. Some do an HRA only, which now is illegal because of our friends in Washington, D.C., and I have no idea what the other strategy might be. Those doing HRAs, the vast majority are doing it with the health insurance. And it doesn't matter what size that employer is. So clearly this is a viable strategy to tie it into a health reimbursement arrangement. Again, the health reimbursement arrangement leaves the employer in control of the cash, right? They don't have to give the money out for somebody else to hold on to. And at the end of the day, there's opportunity for that employer to keep that cash. They don't have to pay it. That's why the HRA is a great opportunity. So, what's the CCHP strategy? Well, they're optimized when there's a sufficient premium delta between a traditional plan and a high deductible plan. You've got to have that fixed cost savings to fund the consumer directed plan, right? Whether it's an HSA or HRA, you got to find the money somewhere. You got to have that premium savings. Well, get on my CCHP advertisement. We have significant premium delta. If you were to look at our small group rates, from platinum to bronze, it's over 50% less expensive on bronze than platinum. And remember that my platinum rates are 20% below any competitor. You're saving more than enough money to offset the cost and have savings. I'll show you some mathematical modeling tools before we're done here that you can use with your clients to show what the risk and rewards can look like. We have the other closest premium delta I've seen with another carrier is Kaiser on their HRA plan, which is 20 to 25 points differential. If you talk to various HRA, HSA administrators, really the sweet spot is about 20 to 25 points before it even starts to make sense to talk about a CCHP plan to accompany a higher deductible plan. Right now we can do HRAs here at Chinese Community Health Plan. HSAs, we do not have a qualified plan, and we will not have one until 2016. For that, I personally apologize, but with Covered California, with everything else on our plate here at this little plan, and doubling our size in less than 6 months, we only have so much bandwidth to change. So, there's a conflict between the San Francisco Healthcare Security Ordinance and the Affordable Care Act. Before the Affordable Care Act, you could do a standalone HRA, which what employers would do in the city, these restaurants, put the money aside into a standalone HRA to reimburse employees for expenses. Affordable Care Act does not allow a standalone HRA, and why is that? standalone HRA does not provide the essential health benefits, and it does not provide, there's a prohibition in HRAs naturally against having a lifetime unopened benefit. Does that make sense? In other words, you can't offer a plan by itself that has annual or lifetime maximums, right? HRAs do. And they don't necessarily provide the minimum essential benefits. That's why a standalone HRA is illegal under the Affordable Care Act. So, when I first was looking at this, well, how do we get around it? How does an employer satisfy the city and not violate the standalone HRA rule? And I went, oh, well, we'll just do a limited benefit HRA and just apply it to vision and dental, which you could do under the city rules. But here's the problem. The feds said the maximum you can contribute in a year to a limited benefit HRA now is $500. Do the math. Even at $1.63 an hour, over a year, you blow through the $500 and still not fulfill the city's rule, right? Because we were thinking, it's really the question, how do I take care of my part-time population without giving the money away? There's no way to satisfy your part-time population that I figured out without giving the money away. That's the bad news. The good news is there might be a strategy for your benefit-eligible populations. So, you've got the conflict between the Affordable Care Act and the Health Care Security Act. Employers must spend employer spending requirement of $244.63. Well, I would suggest to you that with our bronze plan, which by far the lowest price plan in the counties, San Mateo and San Francisco, full-time employee $244 an hour, it's $390 a month in HCSO contributions. Well, if I have an employee of 19 years of age, our premium rate is $77 a month. I got an employee 64, 65 years old, my rate is $367 a month. I have enough money with HCSO contributions to pay 100% of my premium with money left over. No other plan can say that about the whole small group band of rates, right? That 65-year-old is going to be more than $367. So, one strategy is the employer buys the bronze plan, takes that excess money and puts it into a deductible-only reimbursement in HRA with our friends here. So for the 19-year-old, it's quite a bit of money. For old guys like me, yeah, it's not real impressive. But you satisfied the city, you put the money into an HRA, and granted, you're not actually putting money into an HRA. Keep in mind, an HRA by definition of the IRS is merely a promise to pay. You don't have to put the cash in an account. You don't have to put the cash in your employee's hands. You are promising your employee they submit a claim, you will reimburse them. It's a tiny self-funded plan. Literally. So, now, another thing our friends in the city did to kind of play with the whole employer thing is, they said, if you do this, Mr. Employer, you can't sweep back money from your HRA until after it's been in there 24 months. Federal lets you sweep back at the end of every plan year, unused liability. The city forces you to let it accrue for 24 months under the Health Care Security Ordinance. Downside. Okay, it's a little longer time. You got to keep that promise to pay hanging out there, that liability. Again, all I can figure out for you people that are benefit ineligible, your part-timers, send the $244 and the $1.63 to the city option and just wave goodbye to the money. I can't think of any option. I've asked around, talked to attorneys. We haven't found a way out of it. I'm not the smartest kid on the block, so if you come up with an idea, please share it with me.
That's only for the small.
Part-timers.
But the small employer, right?
Well, any employer that has to do the city option, you got to put the money somewhere. You can't do a standalone HRA. They don't have They're not on the medical plan. So you got to do something with that $244 or $1.63. I can't figure out where else to send it other than the city to satisfy the code. And again, I'm not necessarily the smartest kid on the street. Sterling HSA has this wonderful HRA modeling tool I'm going to show you in a minute that you can use when you're talking to your employers about the worst case and forecasted expend on an HRA. But at the end of the day, what's in it for you? You as a broker. Why have you invested a couple hours of your morning here? Well, I believe this is something for you to use when you're talking to prospects or conserving your current clients. You've got to talk about this strategy. Whether they do it or not is immaterial, really, at the end of the day. But if you're not talking about this strategy, somebody else will, and that puts you at risk. Or, if it's a prospect, the current broker is not, and it gives you an advantage. So, it's an opportunity to maybe get a new client, but also to protect your current clients. You don't want to get poached, because this is a vicious business you guys are in. I tried to be a broker once. I couldn't do it. It's too vicious. Too many illogical decisions. People say, my buddy's son got an insurance license, but moving my BOR. It's like, really? Couldn't do that. We've got our Gina and Jack and Yolanda. We also have our friends from Claremont, LISI, and soon Ward and Brown, depending on who you have relationships with, to get quotes. If you want to do an HRA with our plan, what we're going to do is we're going to tell you call Eric or Tom. They'll set it up for you. They're the experts. We're not going to burden these guys because they'll scratch your head and look at you and go, what? No, we want it to be really happening on a cool basis. But you get a discount because we're going to let them know that it came from us. Also, if you use Quote Engines Online, Health Connect, or Quote It, our small group rates are in those engines. Pretty soon, our individual plan is also going to be on Health Connect. And that's me. Let me show you a couple of mathematical models that we have here. I hope. If I don't screw this up. Amy. Where am I?
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
I have a restaurant right around the block from here, and they currently have Kaiser.
Yeah.
If we move them over to CCHP, everyone works in San Francisco, but half the people live Richmond, East Bay.
Yeah.
What happens to those employees?
Well, for those employees that live across the bridge, either way, urgent and emergent care they can have wherever. Their day-to-day care, they'll come over, they'll have it delivered here within network. We have a lot of people that live over the bridges that still select this plan because of the price points. You know, we are offered alongside Kaiser all the time. Obviously, Kaiser's got the big footprint, and Kaiser doesn't mind us being there. With other carriers, we run into participation requirement challenges. Well, they don't like us there because we get the good stuff. Can you find me? I'm trying to find my... Yeah, there you are. So we fit very well alongside Kaiser. If you look at our participation requirements, smallest in the business. I mean, you got 20 plus, we 50% participation requirement. Large group, I hate to admit this, we have some large groups, we have 2 members. And we still renew. Do I like that? No. But this company grew on slice business. It's work. We are a niche player. We can't force ourselves to fit everywhere for everyone. But for employers that are looking at, get me the lowest cost thing that satisfies the feds in the city, boom, CCHP. Let me give you a quick, it's just a fact, you know. This is a modeling tool that Sterling put together. This is looking at a 40-man group. And we'll zoom down through the bottom of it. You know, this is assuming this is comparing next to, let me tell you what plan it's comparing next to. This is comparing to rates for Kaiser to our bronze plan, basically. Okay, so you got Kaiser's traditional premium rates, our bronze plan premium rates in this example. So you've got premium savings. Let's see here. Your HRA expected claims for a population this size would be $40,000, $41,000. Total expected cost with premiums, admin, and that $40,000, $156,000. Compared to their Kaiser plan, this employer expected savings in year one is $112,000.
How many employees?
40.
40, okay, thanks.
Downside, if they were to burn through 100% of their HRA commitment, which doesn't happen, usually an HRA will run around 35 to 70% consumption, depending on how rich it is. At 100% consumption, that employer is putting $27,000 at risk for an opportunity for a $112,000 gain. Some guys like that. I mean, small employers oftentimes are risk takers, aren't they?
How do we get access to that so we can envision?
Eric and Tom can help you with that. Gina and Jack have access to this as well.
Can you give us their business cards?
I'm sorry?
The business card is what you said.
Yeah, the business cards for these guys are up on the front table there, where you came in. One thing I want to show you specific to HCSO, this is something I put together. So, this is just looking at our plans, and this is a 101 employees working 40 hours a week. Here's the total liability that size group is going to create at $2.44 an hour, $500,000 over the course of a year. Here's what would be our premium on this 100-man group. Bottom line, right here, this is how much they would have left over to pay into the HCSO plan, the fund, the HRA. That's a lot of money. And again, it's not cash they're parking. It's a liability. Year two, assuming certain trend rates, they still have a fair amount of cash. So, the point is, at the end of 24 months, I get to start sweeping some of my HRA money back, right? Because of the city rules. Close of year two, I get to sweep $116,000 back, theoretically. On a bronze plan. Silver plan is $57,000. It's food for thought. Okay, so that's a 100-man group. Some real money. 40-man group, maybe it doesn't seem like real money. They'll have $24,000 to put into the HRA, depending on their age, sex, mix. But they still get a chance to recapture $12,000. You get down to a 20-man group, be honest with you, the savings aren't there just because there's just not enough premium. Year two, $3,500 recapture rate. Not too impressive. But you get into that 40, the 50, the 100-man group, maybe. Any questions at this point? Yeah, Dave.
You know, you mentioned with the HRA,
Mm-hmm.
it's an unfunded liability, but the employer takes a tax deduction.
You would-
So
Yep.
if you don't fund it, then how do you know how much you get to?
You would deduct your actual expenditure. So you book, the question is, with an HRA, it's not a funded liability, it's an unfunded liability, it's a promise to pay. What's your tax deduction? I'm not an accountant. I believe they would deduct their actual true cost in that year.
So we actually do pay out in HRA.
You would write off as a business expense.
I see. So you at the beginning of the year, you anticipate what you're going-
$100,000, but at the end of the year, you may only write off $50,000.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I got a question again, about my group, the restaurant, a lot of the employees are Hispanic.
Mhm.
Kaiser does a really good job with Hispanic employees. How about Chinese Community Health Center?
Jack, se habla español? Jack is trilingual. We have our materials in Spanish, Chinese, and English. So,
The doctors,
you know, the challenge in the city is really Hispanic-speaking medical practices in general.
right.
So we can't guarantee that. Obviously, we do have a lock on the Chinese component. But the Spanish,
We try to find the best fit.
yeah. Again, there's trade-offs everywhere. Our price point versus language. We do have materials. We have somebody who can do open enrollments to help out with that. Member Services has translation capabilities. But it's not a perfect world in that regard. Anything else? Well, we, as a group from Chinese Community Health Plan, really appreciate your investing your time today. I hope this is worth your time to get a little bit of food for thought. And as I've heard some people say after a meal at a Chinese restaurant, xie xie.
Thank you.
Thank you.